You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I'll rise.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around.
Nadine Garrison Williams, born in 1911 in a house on Madison Street in Williamston, South Carolina. Nadine grew up during segregation when it was against the law for blacks and whites to socialize in public, but her ability to connect with anyone would serve her well and open doors for her later in life to be the first African-American woman to win a school board election.
Nadine was one of the best teachers in this area.
Miss Nadine was a classic. I classify her as being a classic lady, classy lady. And she wanted to make sure that everybody in her classroom got an education.
Okay. When I was asked to make some comments in regard to Ms. Williams, I did a lot of thinking, and I just came up with one word that I feel would describe Ms. Nadine, and that's mother. The M would be for motivator. She pushed and prodded everyone to be the best they could be.
Between 1929 and 1933, the Great Depression hit, and Miss Nadine had to stay out of school for nearly 2 years because there were no high schools for blacks close to her home.
And our teacher, seeing that the only way out of that situation, which was kind of tough, was an education. So all of us were encouraged to do the best we could to get as much knowledge as we could, not just here, but out in the world.
Nadine and her 11 siblings all finished high school. She and her 3 sisters went on to graduate from college. Nadine started her advanced studies at Benedict College in Columbia, South Carolina. She and several of her siblings went on to get master's degrees. Miss Nadine's family has a long history with Caroline School. Her father spent 20 years at the school as a teacher and principal.
My grandfather had a college education in 1892. Think about that. A black man in the Deep South with a college education. So he was very well known for generations.
As a student, Miss Nadine attended Caroline School herself. She began teaching there in 1944 and would eventually become the school's principal. In addition to that, during World War II, Miss Nadine served as the first and only woman principal of a high school in that area of the county.
Nadine fought for years for the school boards to not only buy new books for Williamston High School, but also for Caroline School. And in her fights for those kind of things, she began to gain a certain respect among the Caucasian community.
As a teacher, many describe Miss Williams as a force bigger than life. She motivated her students to finish high school and to seek advanced degrees.
Ms. Nadine Williams and Mrs. Corrine Gambrell Sullivan are the reason that I was able to go to college. Ms. Nadine and Ms. Sullivan saw something in me and worked on my behalf to get me to South Carolina State College.
And she was set on our being able to speak properly. And right now, my ability to stand up before a congregation of people, I give her the credit for actually placing me in a position wherein English became so important to me.
During integration in the 1960s, Miss Nadine was the first teacher to teach at Palmetto High School. In her classroom, students learned mathematics and English.
Everything that I know about English, it came from Nadine Williams.
She also made sure her own children took education seriously and were aware of current events.
In our household, we always had the newspaper. We always had U.S. News and World Report magazine. We had, you know, educational materials all over the place, Reader's Digest, and everybody had an opinion. Even when I was like 5 years old, I had to have an opinion.
The O would be for organized. She wore a lot of hats in the community, at school, and in the church.
Miss Williams' youngest son, Michael, says learning wasn't confined to the schoolhouse or home. Miss Williams and her husband made sure the children traveled to see things firsthand.
Every year we traveled somewhere. That somewhere would be anywhere from Detroit to, you know, Norfolk, Virginia, Washington, New York. And I don't remember when we didn't do that.
Although the family left Williamston to enjoy vacations, they couldn't drive far enough to escape the repercussions of segregation.
Because my mom and dad had a nice car, it was a Buick Roadmaster. It was an experience because people, you know, the officers, as you go through these states, the southern states, would wonder how this black family could afford such a car and where they were going and all that. So we would get stopped on occasion.
Nevertheless, Miss Williams and her family continued to make strides in the Williamston community. Miss Nadine joined a number of civic organizations in an effort to make an impact in the community, including the Williamston Action Community Club.
Mother was a Eastern Star. She was a founder of the WACC, the Caroline Civic Center. She was a member of the Ideal Club, which was an organization formed by Mom and several of her friends to carry on some spirit of community within our little town during segregation.
She was talented. She worked in the church. She worked in the school. She worked in the community. She was a community activist at a time when a lot of African Americans were reluctant to say things Ms. Williams was not.
While family and community efforts filled much of her time, her relationship with God filled her heart.
She was a leader in the church, New Prospect. My granddad and my dad were deacons. And so Mother was a deaconess. And she was also the choir leader. And as a result, you know, we were indoctrined in the life of Christ.
Her son Michael describes his mom as an independent woman who liked the latest inventions. In the 1950s, the family had a telephone, dishwasher, and 2 cars.
I think there may have been 2 people on my street out of about 15 houses that had a television set at the time that we got ours. And we had ours before I was born.
The H would be for humble. Through all the achievements she had and all the recognition, she never changed the way that she was.
Miss Williams was also known as a disciplinarian to her 5th grade students as she taught them about the important things in life, both inside and outside of the classroom.
Yeah, she was a disciplinarian. Yeah, I mean, she was one that would contact your parents right away. She'd come to your house, yeah, and make sure your parents knew that you were doing or not doing.
Well, she did come to my house several times for talking too much in class.
Even in our socials, and Miss Nadine Williams, if we were dancing too close to a girl, she'd come and run a hand between us like this. Y'all too close. But that was Miss Williams.
Even before Nadine Williams came onto the political scene, she challenged the policy of automatically holding colored students back if they came from Reed Street School. Because of her efforts, the superintendent at the time ended that practice.
The E would be for educator. And I think that That's proven by all the young people in the Williamston and Belton and Easley area that she helped to educate through the years.
In 1978, Miss Nadine was one of many candidates running for a seat on the Anderson County School Board. She was the only woman of color elected to serve on the board. Most say her victory came because of her appeal.
She wasn't afraid to talk. And that didn't make any difference to whether she was in a mixed audience with African Americans and Caucasians. She would just say what she had to say.
So she had taught a lot of white kids. And their parents liked the results that she would get out of teaching their kids. The same was true with the Black community. Mother had taught in the Black community since the late 30s, in Williamston in particular. So she had a presence.
Miss Nadine worked tirelessly to make sure people were informed. She was a columnist with a local newspaper. Her focus was to make sure the community knew about important events and issues.
For years, she had a column in there called the Local News. And she would put in there anything from what was going on in the Black community, white community, with the churches mostly. And she would, if you needed to advertise something in the journal, she was the one that you would contact for that. Mm-hmm. Her picture was even up there on the little corner, you know, Miss Nadine G. Williams, Local News.
She was very active in community affairs.
Even in the union meetings. She I never known her to bite her tongue about, expressing something that needed to be expressed. So.
All of Miss Williams' sons earned college degrees. The oldest son, Mark, graduated from Benedict College. Middle son, Lincoln, and youngest son, Michael, both graduated from Morehouse College. And many of her grandchildren also went on to earn advanced degrees. That includes PhDs.
And the last is she was respected by all, not by just the Black community, but by the entire community, not locally, but statewide as well. But just an outstanding lady, and once again, I would say mother.
After 38 years of teaching, Miss Nadine officially retired in 1975, but continued to substitute teach until 1985 and continued to tutor students at least until the age of 87.
When my middle brother Lincoln died unexpectedly of natural causes, mother ended up in the hospital the next month. 3.5 months later, she had a stroke on one side. 3 months later after that, she had a stroke on the left side.
Not long after that, Miss Nadine passed away. She was a highly respected trailblazer who served her community, impacted lives, and left a lasting legacy in many ways, including a trust.
But bottom line, she left a sum of $10,000. And over the years, that money has more than quadrupled that with the investments that I made. We presented a check for $20,000 from the Nadine G. Williams Trust for the Caroline Community Center.
Mrs. Nadine Garrison Williams will continue making a difference in the lives of generations to come.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land